Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So where are we in our text?
Chapter 1, verse 40.
So Ram is now in the audience chamber and he's talking about his insights, having traveled around on his pilgrimage, seeing the impermanence of the world, the vanity of going after the cash and prizes. So, will you help us out?
Yeah. Api merupamam prajnam, api shuram, api sthiram, rini karoti trishnaika, nimeshena narottamam. Desire alone makes the best of men worthless as a straw in a minute. Though his wisdom is as high as Mount Meru, though he is valiant and though he is firm.
Yes. So what happens? A person can have studied all the scriptures, even done some practice out of a moral standpoint. Oh, it's virtuous to be a renunciate. A lot of people do that. Oh, you be valiant, etc. But as long as we are enslaved by the indulgent tendency of the mind, I like to call it the inner 2-year-old. I want ice cream, or I don't want to eat my broccoli. You know that place inside? Or what we were talking about, buy a fear. No! And that has to be dealt with. And if we don't, and this is where ashrams can be deceptive. You go into the ashram, at least in the beginning. One of the things the ashram or the monastic community will do is it separates us from the objects of the senses that trigger us. I was talking with a person, and his family for 2 generations have been disciples of Meher Baba. And he loves it when he goes to Meher Baba. in India. Or they have a community back in the Carolinas someplace. I'm not quite sure exactly where. He goes back there. Oh, he feels so connected and so spiritual and so full of love for the 2 weeks that he's there. And then, oh, and I have to come back here. It's not spiritual here. Now, if you're in an ashram for an extended period of time, like a couple of years, I promise you, those same issues will arise again. They're all in our own minds. They're not out there. So there's no shortcut. Right here, right now, the Lord, in his gracious kindness, has put right in front of us exactly what we need. And how many times have you heard me say this? Who here got upset this week? Tell me this is the first time you felt this. And if you've got a few years under your belt, it's the same dynamic, just the names and faces change. Why? Because it's never, ever, ever out there. And the Lord just keeps bringing it back. Oh, Jim missed it this time. He got reactive and he didn't stay conscious. All right, we love Jim. We'll bring it by again. And, oh, he screwed up that lifetime. We'll give him another one where he can go through it again. Until we see that desire itself is the problem. Until we get it through our thick skulls that kama and dukkha are the same thing. All right, next verse.
Section 4. Vayo Vasishtha Dukkada. The stages of life are painful.
This is such a depressing chapter. I love it.
Deha spurati sansare sopi dukkhaya kevalam nasti deha samas socho nasti deha saman sochyo nicho guna bahishkritah. The body manifests in the world and it is only for experiencing sorrow. There is nothing more deplorable than the body which is worthless and has no virtue.
So this sounds kind of strange, kind of flesh-hating, stuff like that. But the deeper meaning is this. What is the body? The body is an instrument for the fulfillment of desire and the garnering of experience. That is why we've taken up the body. There's no other reason. And if, as we got in the last section, it is desire itself that is my suffering, there I am in the body, tyrannized by its demands, or the demands of the mind functioning through. Now, in the end, the body is a great gift. In the end, the body is an instrument for the realization of the self. But for most We don't see it that way. Next verse.
Kim Shriya, Kim Charajyena, Kim Kayena, Kimihitaihi, Dinai Katipaye Reva, Kala Sarvam Nikrintati. Of what avail is wealth? Of what use is kingdom? And of what avail are body and thoughts sought for? And things sought for. Even within a certain number of days, time destroys everything.
Yes. So the fundamental truth about all names and forms, gross and subtle, is their impermanence. And it's so fascinating because you can have a lot of the cash and prizes, but if you still have unfulfilled desires, you're like a person at a banquet with a thorn in their throat, as Shankara says. I love that image. You're at a fabulous event and you've had a fight with your significant other. You can't enjoy the event, the concert, or whatever it is. Or I'm thinking of a particular family that inherited, actually got a legal settlement, hundreds of millions of dollars. But the woman's health was terrible. She had heart trouble, she had diabetes, she had all sorts of things. She never left her house. She ran around in a house coat all day long, sat on the couch and watched television, worth hundreds of millions of dollars because her health was so fragile. Doctor this, doctor that, pill for this, pill for that. So too frequently, that's what happens. And even if for a short time we get what we want, it's always temporary. Next one.
Daktaman Samayas Yasya Sabahya Bhyantaram Mune Nashai Kardham Mino Bruhi Kaiva Kayasya Ramyata. Of this body, constituted of blood and flesh in and out, and which has only destruction as its characteristic. What is the beauty? Tell me, O sage.
So we may get 10, 15 years being a hottie. And the thing that's so funny is young people who are gorgeous and they don't think so. Low self-esteem, low body image, even though youth is beauty and beauty is youth. And so quickly, wrinkles, thin hair, sad. Then later on, aches, pains, tumors, thremers. God, there's all sorts of stuff that goes on. And without an enormous amount of maintenance, it's not even tolerable to yourself or other people. But we have this image, the body of my imagination, the body of my ideal. Doesn't mean you don't have few years. It's very enjoyable. But it's so fleeting. So fleeting. Next one.
Ashakti Rapadas Trishna Mukta Mudha Buddhita Gridhnuta Lolata Dainyam Sarvam Balye Pravartate. Incapacity, calamities, thirst, dumbness, perplexed or dull intellect, covetous, restlessness, and dejection are all these exist in childhood.
Yes. So the child is one bundle of needs. Can't clean itself, can't feed itself. For a long time, can't communicate what it wants. Frustration. You know, it's so funny. We have a myth in the West about happy childhood. I don't know about you, but mine was it. There were some happy moments, but a lot of it was just frustration and loneliness and self-obsession and going on.
Amedhya eva ramate bala kaulayyako yatha shaishave guruto bhiti mratita pitratatastha. The child sports in filth just as a dog. In boyhood, there is fear from the preceptor, the mother, and the father.
So you're always afraid that you're going to do something wrong and get punished. I'm going to come home with a B- on a report card. I'm going to want to ditch class and go behind the gym, get punished for it. And then all the corrections we get. I don't know if you had this in your childhood. Did your parents spank you?
No.
That's in my generation. It was common. Everybody did.
Lloyd's parents did.
Yeah.
It's common in India too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Corporal punishment.
Did you get spanked?
Sometimes, yeah.
Did you?
You probably
Yeah.
deserve.
Yeah.
But here, what the scripture is saying is, it's not all idyllic for any of us, or the kinds of things of the children are obsessed with the fear of missing out, of not belonging. Did any of you ever get bullied in elementary school?
Yeah.
Oh, I was tortured. Kids, happy childhood, phooey. Kids are mean.
Yep.
And girls, I don't know if it's for girls in India, but the competitiveness.
That's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mean girls. Yeah.
And cliques. You know, I used to say sororities and fraternities are social organizations which exist for the sole purpose of excluding others.
Yeah.
You think about it. Anyway, such is childhood. Going on, next verse.
Janato Jyeshthabalacha Shaishavam Bhayamandiram Vistirnapi Prasannapi Pavanyapi hi Yauvane Mati Kalushatameti Pravrit Shiva Taringinihi. From men and elder children, boyhood becomes an abode of fear. In youth, even though the intellect is broad, clear, and pure, it becomes turbid just as a river in the rainy season.
So, for boys and girls, 8, 9, 10, 11. Your intellect starts to become clear. You can study, you can understand things, you can begin to have adult conversations. And then come the hormones of adolescence. The intellect becomes turbid. Alexa, define turbid.
Turbid is an adjective that describes something as being unclear or transparent due to sediment or other substances that have been stirred up. The word turbid can also be used to describe someone's face when they are feeling angry or upset.
All the feelings of being a teenager. Not to mention how so many kids get wrecked through adolescence, through dusanga. What's dusanga?
Bad company.
Yeah. Drugs, petty theft, shoplifting, gangs. Adolescence can be treacherous. Next verse.
Yada yada param kotim adhyarohati yauvanam valganti sajvara kama tada nashaya kevalam. When youth rises up to its climax, feverish passions dance, then only destruction results.
Yes. So a person may have a very clear intellect, have a vision of what they want to do with their life, and then all of a sudden, I need to get married, and right away. We're in a modern era, they don't bother to do that. But back in the time that this was written, you could not be sexually active outside of the confines of marriage. And what happens if you're being sexually active, even in the confines of marriage? What's going to happen pretty soon?
Kids.
Children.
Babies, yeah. That whole part of a couple's life is delayed so much in the modern era. I'm reading a novel, and you know, girls are getting married at 13 and 14. Their mothers at 15. You know, that's how a woman's body is meant to be. Guys, you know, they're at their sexual prime at 18, you know. And now many people delay marriage, delay family into their 30s. That whole process has been delayed. Going on.
Te vandhyaste mahatmana ta eva purusha bhuvi ye sukhena samuttirnaha sadho yauvana sankatat. O sage, they alone are to be worshipped. They are the great souls, and they alone are men in this world who have easily crossed over the perils of youth.
Yes. So many of us crash and burn. Drop out of college. That was certainly the thing in my generation. Sidetrack our lives because of judgments, rebelling against parents. This is maybe 1,000 years old. Haven't changed a whole lot. Next verse.
Mamsam panchalikayastu yatra loleka panjare snaya vasthi granthishalyanyaha priya kim iva shobhanam. In the string-tossed bodily cage of the puppet doll of flesh, endowed with muscles, bones, and joints, of a woman or a man, what good is possibly there?
So this idea that what we are is a puppet on strings. We think we're acting out of choice. We think we're so free when the force of karma, the social environment is so powerful. The illusion of freedom. Gonna do what you're gonna do based on the force of the past. Doesn't mean we don't experience free choice. Let me give you a real live example. So many of you know I'm very active in the recovery community. Part of the syndrome of alcoholism, someone has a bad night and they get up in the morning and they say, I'm done. I'm not gonna drink. And then by noon, well, I'm not gonna get drunk today. And then by 5 o'clock, well, I've changed my mind. I think I'll just have a beer. And the alcoholic thinks those are free choices when they're simply acting out the syndrome of alcoholism. They've lost the capacity to freely choose. But it feels like I'm freely choosing. Do you all understand that?
Mhm.
Yes? That's all of us with our lives. We are caught in the syndrome of karma, usually followed by krodha. We think we're so free. All we're doing is like a puppet with strings. Next one.
Tvamma saraktabash pambu prithak kritva vilochanam samalokaya ramyam chet kim mudha parimuhyasi. See if it is pleasing after separating the skin, flesh, blood, tears, eyes, etc. Why are you deluded in vain?
Yes, and this is classic Vedantic meditation. If you are plagued by lust and you cannot let go of the obsession for sex, seeing another person's body as a sex object that is incredibly desirable, what the scriptures say is try dissecting it in your mind. Oh, he's got a washboard stomach, a six-pack. Wouldn't it be better just to flay it with a knife and fondle the intestines? Oh, have you seen her bust line? Oh yeah, you could cut them open and see all the mammary glands and stuff like that. Well, she has such a lovely face. I wonder what flaying her nose would look like inside, you know. Very good meditation. And I think I've told many of you this before, way back in the early 70s. The great Tibetan Lama, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, came to Berkeley. I was living in Berkeley. This would have been 1973. And he was going to be doing a tantric Buddhist workshop. Lots and lots of people came. We're going to learn how to have kinky sex and all this kind of stuff. And for an entire week, for 8 hours a day, he showed videos of autopsies. People just sat in the theater watching bodies being cut up. So here, our poet, Vasishtha, we'll say Vasishtha, ascribes it in words, describes it. Trungpa had you look at it, the direct experience. That's what a body is. Very powerful meditation. Next one.
Yasya stri tasya bhogecha nistrikasya kva bhogabuhu striyam tvaktva jagat yajkam jagat tyaktva sukhi bhavet. Only the person who has a spouse lusts after conjugal pleasure. For one without a spouse, where is the field for enjoyment? If lust for woman is abandoned, the world or worldly bondage is abandoned. Having forsaken worldly attachment, one becomes happy.
So the thing about sex that most of us don't realize, it's the sexing itself that then reinforces the desire for sex. You've heard me say this 100 times. Swamiji used to say, if sex were satisfying, we'd only do it once. I've had lots and lots of conversations with people in monastic life, monks and nuns in the West. What most of them say is sex, that particular passion, goes away rather quickly. There may be a little bit of it, but it isn't tormenting. The tormenting one is obedience. You have a hard time surrendering. Now, brahmacharya, chastity, celibacy, we look at it in two ways. For a single person, it means celibacy. For a married person, it means staying within the vows of your relationship. But the abstinence, the way of abstinence that the monks or the nuns do, it's frankly a gift, not a discipline. And if you try to take on brahmacharya and it's not meant for you, it can be a terrible burden. A terrible burden. There's an old Zen story about a group of Zen monks were about ready to cross a river at a ford. And there was a woman there. And she could not swim, and she was frightened to cross the river. So the senior monk says, "Here, get on my back and I will carry you across the river." So they ford the river. She gets off and thanks them. And they travel 2 miles down the road. One of the younger monks finally says to the senior monk, I'm just so upset. we're monks. We're not supposed to touch women. How could you have done that? And the senior monk says, I put the woman down 2 miles ago. You are still carrying her. In our minds. So anyway, that's about all I'm going to say about it. Next verse.
Aparyaptam ibalatvam balat pibati yauvanam cha jara paschat pashya karkashatamitaha. Insufficient is childhood. It is forcefully devoured by youth. The latter, in turn, is devoured by old age. See this mutual cruelty.
Yes. So what a lot of us old people say, youth is wasted on the young. They don't appreciate it. And then you're finally feeling like you're understanding life, what it's about. You get some self-acceptance, you're at peace with everything. And then body parts start to fail. You know, no end to it. Next.
Dushpreksham jaratham dinam hinam guna parakramaihi gardho hyabhyeti satsolasam upabhoktum na shakyate hridayam dahyate nunam shakti tausthena vardhake. Though bad to look at, old, miserable, devoid of efficacy or courage, desire approaches him with splendor, but he is unable to enjoy. In old age, the heart burns indeed due to his poor capacity to enjoy.
Yes. I cannot tell you how many men, at least I know. I think for women, they're able to continue with their sexual activity into old age. But there's a whole industry. We've coined the term ED. Say what it really is. Blue pills. I still have lust, but my body won't cooperate. Such is the nature of the mind. The principal sex organ for a human being, do you know what it is?
The mind.
Yes, the mind. Next verse.
Section 5. Kala Vaibhavam, the might of time. Kvachit va vidyate yesham sansare sukha bhavana akhu tantu miva shesham kala tamapi krintati. In some cases, where the sense of happiness in worldly life exists for a few, time completely destroys even that, as a rat destroys thread.
Yes. So even because of the punya, the merit you've accrued in other lifetimes, you may have a happy, successful life. You make a good marriage, your kids grow up to be successful, your business works, you have a nice home. But then death comes for us all. I can remember talking with a young gal, and she was just so distraught that she'd had an unfortunate love affair. How long were you dating this fellow? 3 months. It was a long-term relationship. And all I could think of, oh, you have no idea what pain is. Wait till you've been married for 60 years and your spouse dies. suffering. And I have these just horrible slogans. All relationships end in death or divorce. That's what you have to look forward to. That's what happens. Next verse.
महतामपि नो देव परिपालयति क्षणम् काल कवलिताशेष विश्वो विश्वात्मतां गतः. God does not protect for a moment even the happiness of great men. Time, having swallowed up as a mouthful the entire universe, has attained the nature of the Supreme Being or the soul of the universe.
Yes. So in Gita, Krishna says, I am all devouring time. One of Swamiji's favorite sayings was, graveyards are filled with indispensable people. And every situation, every structure, many people think, oh, we're going to lose our democracy. Well, history has shown us that democratic or republican governments usually last about 250 years. History shows us they don't tend to last longer than that. Maybe this particular historical period will be an exception. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But it will end sometime. The pharaonic system in Egypt lasted something like 1,000 years, maybe even 1,500. And it too is gone. Nothing lasts. Next verse.
वृत्तेस्मिन्ने मे तेषां कालादीनां महामुने संसार नाम्नि कैवस्था मादृशानां भवद्भिः. O great sage, if this should be the account in this worldly life of these entities like time, what is the hope of people like me here?
So Ram says to Vasishtha, why should I bother to do anything? Because there's no point in it. It's all vanity. It's all temporary. It all ends in loss and grief. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Mano vimuhyati vanta udita duratam gata dhirata meti dhruvopya dhruva jivitah. The mind faints as it were within, and joy recedes away. Courage gives place to timidness. Even the pole star has impermanent existence.
So at this point in Rama's unfoldment, he's hit this point of very mature vairagya, but that's only half the picture. He sees the total impermanence, vanity of worldly existence. Even the North Star is not perfect. Why should I bother to do anything? Now, you take this to your psychiatrist and they'll give you antidepressants. if it is mature vairagya, it's actually a very high state. Boredom can be a very high state. What is boredom? I don't want to do anything because there's just no juice in it anymore. But we haven't found what it is that satisfies the human heart. Going on.
Amara api mayante kaivastha madrishe jane shaila api vishiryante kaivastha madrishe jane. Even the gods are killed. What is the hope for people like me? Even mountains are shattered. What is the hope for people like me?
Same idea. Going on.
Shushyanyapi samudrascha shiryante taraka api siddha api vinashyanti kaivastha madrishe api kaivastha madrishe jane. Even oceans dry up and stars are torn to pieces. Even sages are destroyed. What is the hope for people like me?
Yes. Yes. More of the same insight. There's not more to say. The verse is very clear. Going on.
Parameshtyapi nishthavan hitrayate harityajaha bhavopya bhavamayati kaivastha madrishe jane. Even Brahma, the creator, reaches his end at the appointed time. Even Hari, the sustainer, the unborn, is taken away. And even Bhava, Rudra, the destroyer, attains to non-existence. What is the hope for people like me?
So even at the end of each age, all creation folds up. It's the end of all the gods before he emerges again. So if even the gods have only a relative immortality, what is there of a hope for someone like you and me? Next verse.
Apada kshanamayanti sampadaha kshanam janma shanam mrityu mune kim iva nakshanam. Calamities come in a moment and good fortune at another moment. At this moment it is birth and at another it is death. Sage, what indeed is not momentary?
Yes, same idea. There's not a lot to say about it. Next one.
Iti me doshadavagni dhagde sappadi chetasi praspuranti narvokashaha mrigatrishna sarasvivaha. Thus, in my mind, burnt by the forest fire of evils instantly, hopes for enjoyment do not throb as mirages do not appear in lakes.
So he is summing up his insight. There's no point going after the world. So what we need to do is smash the idea. I'll be happy when it'll be better if. That's ego's strategy to keep us caught in the karma chakra, the wheel of action. Going on.
Nabhinandami maranam, nabhinandami jivitam, yatha tishtami, tathaiva vigajatvaram. I do not rejoice at life, nor do I rejoice at death. I stand as I do, free from fever.
So his mind has a kind of calm. He neither longs for death, nor does he yearn for life. This is why I say if you want real freedom, we not only need to give up the world, but you've also got to be willing to be in the world, as it were, for the rest of eternity. What if it's going to be just like this? Situate. Death on one shoulder, ready to die today, and immortality on the other shoulder. What if it's going to be like this? Right. Reason this is important is one, if you get this distaste for the world, you can start longing for death, which is really a desire for oblivion. This is what the suicide does. You want to be just at this center point, right here, right now. This is it. Any thoughts on this? If you were going to have to be in the body for the rest of eternity, what should be your attitude? The great cosmic middle finger. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. Going on.
Yatha janasi bhagavan tatha moha nivrittaye bruhi me sadhavo yena nunam nirdukhatam gataha. Revered Sir, how did the wise ones verily attain the state of freedom from sorrow? Tell me this, as you are aware of, so that my delusion may come to an end.
So, this again is the wisest thing an ego can do. Arjun says it in Gita. I don't know what to do with my sorrow. Krishna, I surrender to you. Vasishtha and Vivekachudamani says the same thing. This purple poetry. I'm being roasted in the fire of change. I'm tossed. Oh, Guruji, save me with a nectarine glance from your eyes. We surrender. Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God, which may show up as the temporary psychological device of the Guru. Let's see what happens after he surrenders.
Athava tadrishi yukti yadi brahman na vidyate na vakti mama va kinchit vidyamanapi vidyamanamapi sputam. Sage, if however there is no such means or nobody tells me clearly what is another.
Again,
Sage, if, however, there is no such means or nobody tells me clearly what is available, then there's a continuation of the next verse.
Going on.
Swayam chaiva na chapnomi tam vishrantim munattamam taddaham tyakta sarvoho nirahankaratam gatah na kinchidapi vanchami dehtyagat hrite mune mauna evavatishhtami lipikkar swe varpitah. Or if I do not obtain myself that unsurpassed peace, then I, who have abandoned all desire and become egoless, O sage, do not seek for anything except death. I shall remain in silence as one placed upon a drawing.
So if I cannot find liberation, peace from this sorrow, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to eat. I'll just wait till I starve to death. No point in going on. Let's see what happens.
Iti Shri Vasishtha Sangrahe Shri Rama Manaviddo Nama Prathama Sargaha. Thus ends the first chapter titled The Dejection of Shri Rama.
Yeah, depressing, isn't it? It also serves the purpose if there are any dilettante yogis who's, Yoga Vasishtha. They usually run out the door by this point. But it's so important. One of the things I love about this book is the first teaching is deep confrontation with our suffering. And the author was obviously very familiar with Buddhist thought. What is the first turning of the wheel of Dharma in Buddhism? The Four Noble Truths. What's the first noble truth?
Life is suffering.
Dukkha Satya, the truth of suffering. Which is what this whole chapter has been about. All right, let's see if we can lighten it up a little bit before I send you home.
Dvitiya Sargaha Upadesho Pakramaha. Chapter 2, the beginning of the teaching. Section 1, Shukopakyanam, the story of Sukha. Sukha.
Isn't it Shuka?
Sorry, Shuka, yes.
Yeah.
Valmiki Uvacha Ityuktva Virate Rama Vishwamitrobhya Bhashata. Valmiki said, having said thus, when Rama paused, Vishwamitra spoke to him.
Now remember, Vishwamitra is the sage who's been out in the forest doing ritual and is being attacked by all the demons. So after he's heard this, let's see what Vishwamitra says.
Vishwamitra Vacha Naraghava Dvasyatya Yeyam Jnana Vatambara. Vishwamitra said, Raghava, best among the wise, there is nothing else to be known by you.
In other words, this deep dejection, this complete awareness of the emptiness of striving in the world. Vishwamitra says, there is nothing else you need to know about this world. And believe me, it takes most of us lifetimes This is hard teaching. The Buddha also taught it, but so does the path of yoga. You can't expect to have steady wisdom with half-assed renunciation. Just doesn't work that way. if you still have attachment to the world, it's because you still have delusion. It has to be complete. Now, Tejomayananda used to tell this story about a Swami who went to a householder's home for bhiksha, for a meal. And at least in the Chinmaya mission, I don't know if they do it in other places, but at the end of the meal, the householders will have a thali, then it has fruit in it, and then there's an envelope with the fruit, put a check in it, and Swami takes the check, puts it in his pocket, and Prasad throws the oranges and stuff to the people. And then the householder, he pranams. He says, "Oh, Swamiji, you've done a great thing. You have given up this world." And the Swami gets down on his knees and bends and touches the householder's feet. And he goes, "No, Swamiji," and pulls him up. And the Swami says, "Oh no, you are a much greater renunciate than I. I've given up the world, but you've given up infinite bliss." And that's the condition we have to see. You're welcome to go back to your attachments to the world. We will joyfully refund your misery. You may have it back. But again, it takes incredible spiritual maturity to see that kama and dukkha are the same thing. Going on.
स्वयैव सूक्ष्मया बुद्ध्या सर्वं विज्ञात वानसी भगवद्वय सपुत्रस्य शुक्यस्यैव मतिस्वत. You have known everything by your own subtle intelligence. Your intellect is like that of Shukha, the son of sage Vyasa.
So he's now comparing him to this mythological person, Shuka, the son of Vyasa. Let's see what happens.
Vrishantim atramevanta jnata gyeyopya pekshate shukho vyasatmaja purvam chintayan jagato gatim swayameva vivekena buddhepi paravastuni idam vastitvati vishwas nasavat manyupayayau. Even the one who has known what is to be known needs only total inner tranquility. In the past, Shukha, the son of Vyasa, even though himself awake to the ultimate reality by discrimination, contemplating on the course of this world, did not attain in himself the confidence, this is the reality.
Yes. So Shuka had indirect knowledge. I mean, his father was one of the greatest of all sages. He may have even had some, direct experience, but he did not obtain serenity, meaning craving, discontent, doubt still arose in his mind. Next one.
Vishrantam anastitva prapacha pitaram tada sansara andama ramidam katamabhyoditam mune. With a restless mind, he asked his father, "Sage, how did this show of worldly existence arise?"
Yes. So remember in our first introductory remarks, I talked about the three questions that are addressed in this book. Who am I? And the second one what is this world? And the third, how has it come about? The vast majority of the text is going to be dealing with questions 2 and 3. So Shuka's problem is he may be able to go into deep meditation and understand, yeah, I'm the witness. But he comes out of meditation and he gets annoyed at this and attached to that and frightened of this particular thing. Why? Because he does not understand how this show of worldly existence has come about. So we're going to find out about that. So here's a perfect place to stop. What verse are we on for next week?
Verse 5.
Verse 5. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.